have written a paper called How India's Agriculture Can Save 200 billion cubic meters of water. You heard that right, 200 billion cubic meters of water. That is almost 1/6 of the total water produced in India. How do you save that in agriculture? Yeah, there are many efficient practices you can do. And I will leave it to a lot of the agricultural universities. They have published a lot of things on that. But where I will focus on is some policy measures we can take. For example, rice. Rice uses a lot of water, 3,000 to 5,000 liters of water to produce a kilogram of rice. So what you can actually do is, what if you were to switch to brown rice, right? It is good for your health also. What if you switch to millets? You will be using 1/10 of that water, right? Plus, you will grow them faster also compared to a rice crop. And when you talk about millets, there is a person called Dr. Khadar Wali in India. He returned from the United States as a scientist, and he's now called the Millet Man of India because he's promoting millet so much, because it's so good for your health also. There are a number of talks on millets. We call it the year of the millet, but we don't do anything to really even do something about it. I mean, even if you look at wheat or sugarcane, everything you are using so much water. Even if you make a small transition from white rice to brown rice, with little brown rice, almost half of the white rice, you can save more water, right? Because you're not eating so much of the brown rice because it fills your stomach more quickly. So many strategies you can implement to save water. And I have written all of this in my article, whether it is even coffee, right? Coffee now, Finland is growing coffee in a lab. And they have given a testing to the people. They cannot differentiate between real coffee or lab-grown coffee also. And you can save our mountains, our hills. You can definitely do a lot of things. These are all modern dietary things which have become a fad and which have come into place, but they're really harming the planet as well. Now I can talk about textiles. For example, in the textile industry, there are so many inventions that you could do. For example, cotton. Take cotton, right? It consumes a lot of water. You can grow cotton in a lab now. Galley, which is a startup in the USA, it grows cotton 10 times faster in the lab compared to even on the field. It's a commercial crop. It's not even like a food or anything. It requires 80% less water, 90% less land, grows almost 10 times faster in the lab. And we are using millions of hectares of land for growing cotton also. We can do something about it. Even, for example, all the textiles which we wash, right? We are using so much water. What we can do is, in the United States, you have a liquid CO2 machine. Liquid CO2, same machine, CO2 at high temperature becomes liquid, and then low temperature becomes gas. So the same machine can actually wash your clothes. What if somebody starts a huge chain, have laundromats which run on liquid CO2, then you can, every 50 households, you can have a liquid CO2 machine. Why are IITs not focusing on this? They should probably focus on this and invent a machine in India. So entrepreneurship increases, green technology increases, you save so much water, even restaurants can wash their dishes. So just ample opportunities here in terms of what we can do and what we cannot do. You can have almost full employment in India by implementing some of these practices. I have actually written a paper on this, on how India needs to have a planet-centric energy strategy for India, right? Because if you look at the current energy strategy, it's all so much really fossil fuel based and things like that. So whenever energy is very, very capital intensive, that's or extractive from the earth, that creates a red flag. And there are other things. So it should not be so much of a centralized structure, because the more decentralized you can make energy, the better it is, right? So obviously, we all know about there are now, for example, in the Indian context, there are these little wind turbines, right? They are very planet-friendly turbines, which basically these wind turbines everybody can install on their rooftop 24/7, unlike even solar energy. And they don't kill any birds or anything because the turbine is made in such a way. And many, many companies are making these wind turbines. They are portable, they can be installed on your rooftops. You can power your own home with these. Just in energy alone, there is a vast amount of savings you can do. And even, for example, there is an Israeli company called Home Biogas. Just with your organic material, you can create your own biogas and things like that. Many companies are out there. Many technologies are out there on the fire element, as we talk about. So all of these clean technologies. So as you transition from centralized structures to more decentralized structures, the opportunity opens up. And everybody knows about solar and things like that. But you need to have all kinds of decentralized systems. That should be the strategy we need to take so that India can prosper. Give the power in the hands of the people, give more entrepreneurship, and that will create a lot more things in the fire element or the fire energy that I'm talking about. We have a lot of traffic in India, right? I mean, there is just so much traffic going on in India, and there is a lot of pollution. We are spewing a lot of gases into the air, and all these pollutants which we are putting into the air is not generally good. Obviously, we are talking about so many things. Why not come out with a model in India to have clean air, so that, whether it is Uber, whether it is Ola, or anything of those transportation companies, and if we look at our GST structure and so on, basically, you give them a complete tax incentive for running those cars. But if you are talking about private cars, you increase your GST to the highest slam in terms of when you have a private car ownership. So it's the highest GST on private car ownership. But for public transport like Ola and things like that, they should not be zero tax at all, completely zero tax. So that what you do is you're encouraging more and more public transport and reducing and minimizing, so you control the air pollution that is actually happening. I've written a paper on that, on making such things kind of happen, and it is very important that we kind of look into these tax structures and things like that. How do you fashion even our GST system to take care of the environment? For example, when you are thinking about the lower tax structure, the 0% or 5%, all of the clean technologies should be in that tax structure, including like healthier foods like millets and things of the nature. But when you're talking about those which are harmful to the environment, you put it in the highest tax structure. So that way you manage the economy. No other country in the world has currently 4-tiered kind of a GST system, which anybody in the world should actually adopt. And that works very well with India. The moon has so much influence on the earth, right? Whether it is the growth of the plants, which happens in the night, the water flows in the plant that happens, the sap flow which happens, the tidal waves happen, everything relates. This is all related to space. So our chakra diagrams, when they show the moon, in one of the chakras, it is always relating so much to that particular element having an influence on Earth. The moon is having so much influence on the Earth in terms of its water flows, how water is flowing and all that. So if you're talking about space itself, right, a lot of things are happening. So for example, if you think about the human body, right, and the space element, there is a lot of relationship. Moon has a lot of influence on the Earth. I have written a paper actually on how the moon should be declared as a living entity because of its relationship to the Earth. There is a major influence in terms of tidal flows, in terms of the sap flow in the plant and all that. But still, we want to go mine the moon. I mean, look at our own body, right? For example, I think there is a particular element in the body. We are mining helium on the moon, right? So even minute quantities of what we do on the moon, it relates to the human body and so on. They can have a major influence. So for example, methane. If you take methane, it is even in minute quantities, if it is accumulating in the Earth, it has a major influence. For example, I can tell you that even 0.00007, if methane goes to 0.0019, which has happened, it has a major influence. But we still want to go to the moon and exploit the moon for all its minerals and things like that. Even a 1% exploitation could have a major impact on the Earth. That is how much the moon has an influence on the Earth. So phosphorus in the body, you could even have like 1% is phosphorus in the body. And even if some minor reductions of that could have a major influence on our body. So mining the moon could have major impact. That is the point I'm trying to make when it comes to the space element. Even a woman's cycles are influenced by the moon. Don't exploit resources, but use resources wisely. Use the resources wisely so that they give you more productivity. I mean, I can assure you that if we have a sensible approach in this world, I mean, 300 million cattle, we are killing every single year. What if we took an approach which our Indian knowledge systems have taught us to respect them, right? And all of these cows and everything, if we respect them and only bring the excess milk or use the excess milk after the calf is completely fed. India can set an example for the world that we are the only country that are addressing all the 5 elements of this earth.